The Bitcoin price has rejected 121,000, and I'm asking what happens next to the price. Does this mean that we are going to see a bit more downside before going higher? I'm going to break it down right now. So obviously yesterday we can see we were doing very well yesterday. Bitcoin pushing up to 122,000 in the end. We ended up rejecting all of yesterday's bullish move and ended up printing a red candle on the day, which is obviously not ideal. It's probably the worst possible day we could have got to actually close all of yesterday's move or reverse all of yesterday's move and end up being red on the day. So today you can see we are starting off under a little bit more pressure. And I think based on what happened yesterday, it does now open up the door for a move lower and for us to go range bound. So what we might do is we might come back down and test this moving average here. This is our 50-day moving average, which we have been finding support on over the last couple of months. And we dip below it here. Potentially we get one of these flushes below it again and come down to this 100-day moving average. That is currently around 109. It will probably be about 110,000 by the time we get there. If we do go down there over the next couple of days, that would flush out this low. And I think we just have to be open to that as a possibility. I know that yesterday I was calling for a breakout. I was fairly bullish for a new high before a consolidation and potential pullback in late August or September, but potentially that could be coming a bit early, especially if we get a bearish inflation number, which would be a hotter inflation number. That's going to make it harder for the Fed to do as many rate cuts as they want to, because obviously they're going to risk having reinflation, getting inflation accelerating again, which is what they're trying to avoid doing. Obviously, the markets are very healthy. Stocks are at all-time highs. So there's not really a massive appetite to cut rates too aggressively right now. And the market may start to then price in less cuts again. So it's going to be market moving data coming out later today. I think if it is a fairly sort of low inflation number, lesser than the market expects, then potentially we do get another push higher and maybe we come up to round about where's our current all-time high, around about 123,000. Potentially we make our way up there and see what the market does at that point. I still think at some point we do get some consolidation later this month going into August that I've spoken about. Maybe we wick to a new high off the back of that if it is good data. If not, I think there is risk to the downside here, just in terms of how we are setting up and positioning. But you then ask yourself, has some of this move been front run? So if the inflation number does come out hot, do we initially see a bit of a pop up, catch a bit of liquidity, punish some late shorts, and then come down? That is another move that is on the table. And if we just look at our paths that I've drawn, I have actually modified one of these paths. Just go over to the 5 day, and the path that was obviously the bearish path that had us going to lower levels over the next month. I've actually changed that path. I've adjusted that path to having us actually coming no lower than about 110,000. So obviously, if we do get a weak inflation print, potentially we come down just below these lows here at around about 111,500. We come in, we retest the previous resistance, flipping that to support. We've also got moving average support coming in here, both on the 5 day and, as I've just talked about, also on the daily with this 100-day moving average, which will start to move up into this area. So potentially that is the move we get down into the end of August. Maybe we get some relief. And really what I'd be looking for is just some consolidation here, more sideways than actually coming down. Do we go a little bit lower in September, down to 100, sort of low as 104, 105? Maybe. But that is not my base case. My base case would be just really consolidation and sideways for now. I don't see us going significantly lower than 110,000. So if I had to actually draw out where I'd be looking to position in to add in some of the funds that I've spoken about that I've actually had sidelined, it would really be this level here. So yeah, really in the 110,000s, I can see us sort of coming into this level maybe once, maybe twice, maybe this ends up being the higher low, which then sets us up for then higher prices going into the end of this year. So right now, like I say, a couple of paths here. Either we see that late August rally, or we drop down lower into into the 110 area. I think right now it's a complete coin toss, and a lot of it's going to depend on what this inflation print is later. I mean, if that is if it is a soft inflation print coming in below what the market expects, then we could really maybe get some acceleration. But I think that will be an opportunity to de-risk. I think any soft inflation print today is probably an opportunity to de-risk. I do think there will be an opportunity to buy within this vicinity sub 120k in September for sure. So I think any deviation away from that, if we start to get a bit ahead of ourselves, that will potentially be a de-risking period. Maybe the alts, you know, push up a little bit if we see that scenario as well. So maybe Bitcoin and altcoins, it might be wise to take a bit off the table. That's what I'm probably looking to do. Getting to about 20 to 30% cash for any dip in September to then get back into the market and run it higher. So that is Bitcoin. Let's take a very quick look at the stock market as well, then, because as we know, the stock market is really guiding our moves here. And like I say, is this market done for the next month? Do we actually come in here? Have we actually seen that high get made? I'm still not sure. I still think stocks can push up a little bit further here. Again, it will depend on the inflation data. So let's see what happens. But I do think, regardless, here is not a bad area to de-risk. I've started to de-risk a little bit myself on stocks just because I feel that we will come down and likely come closer back down to that 6k area in September due to seasonality primarily, and maybe just the market getting a little bit ahead of itself. Maybe we start to front run a rate cut going into September. So this move could actually push out into September, and all of this could actually move back if the market actually sells off after the first rate cut. So I'm just a little bit mindful of how to navigate this. Do we go higher first, or do we pull back from here? It's getting to a little bit of a coin toss, close to 50-50 for me right now. Certainly with yesterday's price action, it is. And yeah, it makes sense just to de-risk a little bit if you are all in. That is my view. That is what I'm doing. We can take a look at the VIX. The VIX is still close to the 16, so still under 16 and a half. No major concerns or warning signs there, but obviously this could spike if we do get a hot inflation number come out. And let's take a very quick look at Ethereum then and a couple of altcoins. Ethereum really following the path. Like I say, I'm expecting it to probably top out over the next week or two, maybe over the next few days. Maybe it's even going to top out here. We are also on a Tom DeMark 9 that looks like is printing today. Let's just take a little closer look at it. Yeah, there is a Tom DeMark 9 there, a little bit hard to see, but that is a definitely a daily 9 appearing on my screen. So potentially that is looking to mark the high. So if a high did come in today, either a good inflation number, we get a spike higher, or potentially we could start to roll over from here. Maybe we come into that pullback. So again, I would say the odds of pulling back from here are closer to 50-50. Yesterday, it might have been around about, only 20 or 30% when I was doing yesterday's stream, and I was saying the path of least resistance is probably a little bit higher for a few more days, maybe up to a week higher. Now I'm looking at it and saying it's more like 50-50. And like I say, if for me, myself, being on some profits over positions taken over the last month, I do want to secure just a few of those right here. Looking down the list, I mean, it's going to be a similar story. Solana also looks like it might come down and retest the previous support, maybe gets a wick under. So Solana, I think this path is probably a bit too aggressive, and we're probably going to have to move this back until the market gets going again, probably coming out of the September weakness. So I don't see a new high for Solana until probably not over the next month. I think it's probably at least a month away. Obviously, the data could change things. But yeah, we probably have a little bit more sideways, a bit more chop to do. Things need to maybe get a little bit boring, a little bit sort of more calm before they really then start to accelerate and take off. So yeah, I'm not gonna run through everything today. Altcoin wise, I mean, ultimately things are going to follow what Bitcoin and Ethereum do. So all eyes really on the inflation number coming out today, and we'll see how that affects the market and moves the market. Obviously, that will probably determine where we go from here. But I do still think that it is worth, even if we get a pop higher, looking to de-risk a little bit just going into late August, September. That's something I've been saying on these videos for the last couple of weeks since I've started making daily videos again. I think it makes complete sense. I do think at some point you will get an opportunity to pick up Bitcoin probably below these prices. I don't know if we'll come all the way down to 110, 112, but the possibility is there. What I'm trying to say is I do think there is a high enough probability to obviously consider that happening as a scenario over the next month. If we get a 110 Bitcoin between now and the middle of September, don't be too surprised. I think the possibility is there, and just have a plan, be prepared what you're going to do if that does happen. I've got a plan. I'm looking to raise, like I say, 20 to 30% cash on most of my accounts to buy any dip that we get down to 110, 112. Obviously, if we go higher, make a new high and pull back to around 120 next month or 118 or these prices next month, I can always get back in for similar prices. So I think it's always good to have a plan. You never want to be the person that is completely caught out and sort of pulling the hair out as things come down to 112, 110 again on Bitcoin. And obviously what that would mean for the altcoins, even though that would only be about a 5%, 5, 6% drop from here, maybe 7, 8% worst case scenario. Obviously, for the altcoins, this could mean a 15, 20% move lower. So it's just something to be prepared for. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you all on the next one. GM, GM, GM.